Hello out there, internet. I finally have something enough memory to record my own little videos or movie aftermaths on my own. So today I will be covering 12 Years a Slave, one of the big Oscar movies coming out this fall in a season full of Oscar movies, even though most of them will probably lose to Gravity. Uh, Okay, 12 Years a Slave, based on the memoirs of Solomon Northup. Stars, I feel really bad for mispronouncing his name. Chitowell for I think only Jon Stewart was able to pronounce his name correctly in his interview for during like the promotional tour for the movie. As the lead, Solomon, who is sort of like this free black musician, a violinist. That's an actual term. Who plays who lives in New York in pre-World War America. Who gets basically conned by these two magicians, circus con men, into being kidnapped into slavery and shipped down in the South, and then it's basically this 12-year long quote unquote odyssey as being a slave across like three different plantation owners until his journey into like sort of discovering the horrors of slavery. Uh, I liked it. I mean, out of like coming out of like a lot of the film festivals, like I think at least Toronto was like the last one, or at least one of the first ones. Like it was like people were comparing it, like as calling it like the next Schindler's List, and I wouldn't call it that per se. Though, like I think it does make a strong claim in terms of the approach. This is directed by Steve McQueen, not the cool like American one, who rest in peace. It's directed by the English Steve McQueen, who did Hunger before and Shame, which I think was his more well known work before. And also stars one that which also co-stars that movie's main lead, Michael Fassbender, as Mike Epps or something like that. I apologize as like the as like the worst kind of crazy southern plantation owner who just abuses his his property as he keeps like justifying his abuse of his but yeah, I think this is a really like it lives up generally well to like all the Oscar and festival hype. Uh, is it as good as Schindler's List? I don't think so because I don't quite think so. Only because uh, here like there is no general plot per se. It's mostly just a series of events happen. Not really a series of events. It's like early on in the movie, he's and from the trailer, you think like he like throughout the movie he's trying to devise like ways to escape from his different owners, but owners are try to like be like sort of this inspiration of like oh like I'm gonna fight to get out and get back to my family, and that gets beat out of him very quickly within the first like 20 minutes of the movie. Where like from like the Pullman, like he's on the boat and he's hanging out with this two other stolen slave owners. One of them cameoed by like a nice bit part from Omar from The Wire, which I was really sad to see him go. Oh, because Omar's one of my favorite characters, and he's been a really good actor. It's like it was Michael Cannon Williams or something. I apologize for not knowing and see Chipter well left before that guy from the one black guy from 2012. Uh, he does a great job as just selling this hopelessness from the get go, like showing this sort of this wide eyed optimism or hope that like if someone actually listened to him, he could get out of this horrible situation. But he's a black man pre-Civil War America. So like in the South, kidnapped in the South. So like everyone's just like basically his entire reputation as this famed musician is basically just wiped from the existence, and his family's gone because like they're off on like some kind of vacation or something, or some family business for like 3 weeks, even though he's gonna be gone for several times that. that. But like he's very like he's not exactly a proactive protagonist. Like from the like he's beaten and like beat like this is he has this like survive by doing absolutely like just being very subservient and very quiet the entire time, like from like this other captive slave, and like yeah, so that's beat into him both like just like through the experience of his companion slave for like 5 minutes, and like just being beaten repeatedly, like being whipped or lashed or whatever. And that happens very quickly. Though like what else? And then what else? The casting in this movie is like really like, and that segues into like his journey into like going across these different plantations and dealing with all the horrors of slavery. Though Steve McQueen, in terms of his approach to the movie, it's very like no bullshit. There's no like he doesn't focus on like or play up any moments of like them working having to like do extraneous work or constantly, though they are technically, or being abused by the overlords, which they are now. They are like very presently, but they're not like beating you over the head with like this is a horrible thing. It's done very passively, which is like a very subtle way to show to like this sort of approach the history behind this tragedy, behind like the history of black slavery. It's like it's just like it's just a part of that culture at the time. Like it was just so then like so socially accepted and just expected. That's in its own like in its own way. It's very tragic. It's very sad and really heartbreaking in its own way. And it's like this that format, quote unquote, because this movie that there is no real like narrative drive or plot to this movie. Just like things happen, people get beat. He meets like notable like slave owners or plantation owners played by bigger name character actors, and that sort of like break down the process of from like being sold by like this mis by group very sleazy slave auctioneers. Uh, in this case, it was played by Paul Giamatti, to being to like going through different like ideas of plantation owners. Like Benedict Cumberbatch is one of them, which is who's kind of like a Schindler type. Like he doesn't hate. He's not like particularly racist or like he's not pro slavery, but like he just like Solomon justifies as like he only owns slaves as based on the circumstances of his location, even though he's like a pastor or something, kind of thing. But like he's actively like he's participating in whatever or having dialogues with Solomon on like how to improve the plantation, or like his like artistic merits as a musician to the crazy people like Michael Fassbender. I guess that can lead to me to like the casting of this movie, like the supporting cast of this movie, really, which is basically all bigger character name actors. Let's see, in terms of I don't know any of the ladies in this movie. I'm sorry. But all of the big name actors, there's a Paul Giamatti who only has like 2 scenes as like the sleazy slave auctioneer, which is very back to back. He has a few like sort of chipper lines, but it's also very darkly approached. There's Benedict Cumberbatch, who again, as stated, he's like the confusingly nice plantation owner. Uh, he has Paul Dano as his slave, as his overseer, which I find is kind of an in joke or kind of a joke. It's like Paul Dano cannot has like the worst track record of playing psychopaths because like he plays the most incompetent psychopaths or like sociopaths ever. Cause like in Looper, he can't even kill himself, even though like he's been told immediately you have to kill yourself in the future. Or in Prisoners this last month, which like he gets captured and beaten up by Hugh Jackman for 2 hours and can't do it, and that's basically his entire point in that movie. And here he's like, spoiler alert, quote unquote, he gets beaten up by the slave he's supposed to be overseeing because he's so incompetent. Though unfortunately, he makes like a very like he's somewhat intimidating, but again he's Paul Dano, so he's really like he's like when he's beating him, it's actually really funny. No, save me! Which again, like it helps lead to that aspect of like like when you take out the whole black white standards at the time, like obviously like it's obviously white people abuse their powers when black people can and the black slaves can easily overpower them. I swear I was really good at 8-push for this. Or I feel like I hope I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Oh, and also there's let's see what else. Then after that beating, he's forced like Benedict Cumberbatch and his like goodwill. He transfers him over to he transfers his dead of the slave over of Solomon over to Michael Fassbender Epps, who's basically the sociopath who believes like. He believes in the scripture, but he manipulates the wording of it in a way where he can so justify his abuse of his slaves. And Michael Fassbender is like he's the standout in this cast. I wouldn't be surprised if he'd be like be up for best supporting actor. Because he's approaching this as like a go big or go home character. He's always moving around. He's always shaking. He's always limping. He's always shouting. He's always doing crazy shit, like this, like waking up his slaves in the middle of the night just to dance for no reason. Let's see. Always accusing them of just like leaving the farm for whatever reason. And then he has this crazy wife who sort of scolds him at every time, even though it's the South and at the time in pre-suffrage era. So that means the men can still sort of say, like his attitude is basically like, I can just leave you. I don't have to care. I don't care. But the actress who plays his wife, Sarah Paulson or something like that. I just looked it up. I forgot. I'm kind of blanking on her name. She perfectly personifies this bitchy face. Where she just like stares at you. Like she just always has this one glance. Where it's like. Or something like that. Where like she's like I'm silently judging your every move and word and gesture at every turn, and it's sort of funny in its own weird way. But it also adds to this. All these like character actors they help add to this atmosphere of this like sort of quote unquote slave structure or just infrastructure. Lecture of just like dealing with your crazy, like dealing with the process of like it deals with the process because each stage Solomon always comes face to face with like this particular female slave. In the first one is this mother who was separated from her two children and like from the slave seed, and the entire time like every scene after that to a point where she's basically just like wailing and sobbing about the loss of her children. children, and Solomon, like a contrast with Solomon, who like because of his like survive at all cost mentality, he's very isolated and uh, isolated and shut off from like expressing like his thoughts, and like you don't like even you don't really get the sense of that like he's thinking about his family or what's going on with his life, is the loss of his life, of his like social life, or his presence back up north. Because this movie never leaves like the South. It's always like it's almost every scene has Solomon in it or in some way. Oh, every more or less the entire movie is focused based on his point of view. So it really like captures that sense of hopelessness, and hopelessness. But like again, every moment like there's like it's very like it's scary to see Solomon like he's very quick like it by the time he gets to the first plantation by Cumberbatch, he's very quick to sort of just settle into the slave culture attitude where he's used to being ordered around or abused by everyone. Like everyone, there's no like overplayed sentimentality or period of him trying to resist. It's very matter of fact, well to a point. Because again, there are moments where Solomon tries resists, quote unquote, against some of his overseers, like Paul Dano. Actually, mostly just Paul Dano. I know Michael Fassbender once or twice, which usually leads to him like nearly getting hanged or being chased around with a knife by Michael Fassbender, who like again gives his heart out because like that like there's a scene where he's trying where he brought this slave. Michael Fassbender was very fixated on this Betsy character, and like he's and Michael and Solomon was like trying don't look at him face to face. He whispers don't look at him to his face, and Fassbender just walks up to him. He's like, "What did you say to her?" And just like he chases him around with the knife, and he's like just stumbling all over the mud and trips over the pig pen, and he's lying flat on his face with the knife, and he's just in it to win it. He looks really. You're both afraid for Solomon, but also really like laughing at like how pitiful Fassbender's character is. It's kind of like in Spaceballs, where like these like bad guys, they have like technically all these power over these people, but they're really technically they're just very infallible people. They're so like bad at using and probably managing that power because like and like they only justify that fact that they have that power based on very flimsy like, plot holes in scripture. This movie's like this movie's only is like in terms of like comparing it with Schindler's List. Like this movie it doesn't have that doesn't bang over your head. This is horrible, but like it does. It's very it's not exactly passive. It just shows it in a very matter of fact way. There's not always music stringing it. The music here is done by Hans Zimmer, which is honestly, this is a really weird soundtrack because it's either like bang 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 or like weird guitar riffs, stuff that sounds like guitar riffs or like things banging on metal. Just like this is oppressive, which it does sound oppressive, but it sounds out of place given the time period the movie is in, or string, which sounds great of course, but like it's obviously only like you're supposed to feel emotional or heartbroken or defeated and like they're always like there's these weird like there's these weird nuggets of like hope in terms of like black comedy or like these characters like finding a way to like live with the situation they're in. Like there's this like a little brief part where in the early on where Solomon like he finds this way to get to use this river raft to help Cumberbatch's plantation, but then and like he gets to show off Paul Dano for calling him an N-word, and like Michael Cumberbatch and like all the other slaves, like, yeah, Solomon. And there's Paul Dano going, meh. And let's see, this is like, I like this movie. Yeah, this is it's like, it's very well, like, again, the problem is that this movie is like, there's a lot of weird sense of, there's no real sense of pacing or storyline. It's basically, there's no like drive, like, the trailer, like, it implies he tries to escape, but he's just like, the entire movie is just like him trying to survive, trying to survive across these 12 years, and just like there's these snippets of like weird character moments that basically these name actors just come in and like they interact with each other and things happen based on that. Like, again, the Betsy character, she's this slave who somehow carries like gets 500 pounds of con a day, which just like fascinates Fassbender's character for some reason, and so like he fixates on her, does things to her, sort of treats her better, quote unquote better, or like just like pays extra attention to her, and there's just like, of course, there's the whipping scene, and this movie, like this, in terms of addressing slavery, this is way better than Django Unchained, because Django Unchained was just like, this movie feels like sort of like a year behind after like Django Unchained and Lincoln. This one feels like this like right coming late after the Oscar the bad Oscar race, and just trying to make up for lost time. There are a lot of standout scenes in terms of just passiveness. Like, there's a scene where Paul Dano he tries to hang Solomon Chitowell or something, and they saw the other overseer stops him ahead of time, but they just leave him here hanging, and he's just like barely surviving from being completely hanged by like literally the very tippy toes of his very tippy toes, and like it's like a long it's not exactly a 3-minute shot, there's a few edits, but this whole like 3-minute sequence is basically like none of the other slaves or wardens are helping them. They're just sort of walking past them, going on with their lives. So it represents again that very passive, like, we have to live like this just to get by. And there is a moment in the middle where like this one random slave just comes and gives him water, and just runs off quickly. So like there's brief glimpses of humanity and mercy in it. But then right after that, like you have to get sent off to the sociopath plantation owner. There's a lot of single shots in this movie, which I like. A lot of Oscar movies nowadays, a lot of the big Oscar movies nowadays are doing these one-shot movies, these big long one-shot takes. Gravity did that a lot, which I'd be more impressed by if I knew like pretty much all of it wasn't already visual effects. Here's like it's very just actors acting face to face with physical, like doing actual like whipping, well, quote unquote actual, and there's no music in between. It's just like a lot of shouting and immediate emoting. It's really like, and you have those moments of surprising violence where like one character gets ripped so hard you can see like the bone just like the skin just whipped off the back, so like you just see her bone. It's like bone. It's just this movie's not but yeah. This movie's like though like some of the weird, there's a few weird choices in this movie, like the editing, like at least in the first half is just very weird because it starts sort of like in the middle of like towards the end of his slave career, where he's just like cutting sugarcane, but then it just abruptly flashes back to before any of this happened, and then when he's captured it flashes back and forth between like stuff he heard before he was shipped off to I don't know, and like it doesn't really, like, the movie doesn't tell you what time is happening when. Again, like this movie it's not exactly slow paced, but it feels very directionless. But it gives you that for the I can tell that's very intent. That's the intent. So you can sort of you relate or you feel what the character's feeling more, but it just feels very elongated and unsure. Like these feels like a month in between everything that happens, and then like Brad Pitt's character is also very strange. Hey, because he cut like basically like at that point like the movie's like played up like it's like bingo like a bingo card of like name actors, and like all of a sudden Brad Pitt comes on as just like this Canadian helper with like the strangest Southern accent ever as Brad Pitt could do. And he's of course like since he produced the movie, his company, he's like one of the main. He's his production company Plan B, and then he helped produce it. He gets to be like the hero, like the final like glimmer of hope for this character. Where he's antagonizing with Michael Fassbender's character. He's like, well, your conditions on this plantation for your slaves are horrible. They ain't my slave. Well, they are my property. I can do what I want. It's like, that might be true. That might be fair. That might be the law. But the law can always change. It's like, he gets to play the hero, or like this character who sees a lot of insight and listens to Solomon's true story. Because again, like the part of the movie, like it's really, you forget about it's like, he's told to keep his identity secret the whole time. So he's under the pseudonym Platt the entire time. He has to hide the fact that he was a freed man who can read and write. And again, it's basically your entire life is just gone. There's no hope. You just have to live and hope for the best. And I'm sorry if I feel aimless at this. I'm used to having a dialogue with someone, but I appreciate those who've stuck by me, like me. But overall, yeah, this is just 12 Years a Slave is definitely like I could tell why it's an Oscar contender. There's like there's a lot of great acting, a lot of great directing. It's ironic that John Stewart pointed this out like on this past Thursday's episode. Like it took like an English director and an English actor to tell the story about the horrors of American slavery. And there are a few moments apparently where it is Hollywood dramatized for the sake of drama and the Hollywood market, but overall, like, it feels real to a point. You buy the tragedy, you buy the feeling of the hopelessness. This movie's not about exactly capturing like what kinds of torture these slaves had to put up with. But it's like how did they live with that torture? How were they affected by it? And either like they were like Solomon, they're just very quiet or very closed off, or they were able to find brief moments of humanity. Like there's this great bit where like Solomon and his slaves are just walking down the forest, cutting out some roots, and all of a sudden they just come across this random Indian tribe, and there's this party, and they're just playing like this makeshift violin. It's good, and yeah, it's just a lot of, like shittable effort. I think he's probably the best like male performance I've seen in a movie movie this year. Tom Hanks is second, but you'll probably get that for Saving Mr. Banks. Steve McQueen, yeah, a lot of great single shots, very matter of fact point of view. I think it's worth a lot of great single shots, a lot of good atmosphere and like a very mature handling of the subject. The supporting cast is great. They make a lot of it. Again, there's a lot of name actors like Paul Giamatti or Garrett Dillahunt. They just sort of pop by for like a couple of scenes, but they make them count. They have make him count. They had this like familiarity to a very suspect or uncomfortable point of view. Or these caricatures of like the slave economy per se. Yeah, the music is weird. There were some weird like editing choices, musical choices. Brad Pitt, he's fine in it, but like again, he just comes out of nowhere for 2 scenes and has a very distracting Southern accent, with faux Southern accent. Um, um, yeah, that's yeah. As I go see it, I mean, like definitely a key player for the Oscar race for sure. It's not exactly like like a new Schindler's List, as I've heard some reviews call it. Some reviews call it, but like it makes a strong case for it. It's one of the better depictions of slavery in terms of like approaching the subject of slavery. I think out there on the market. Michael Fassbender deserves a lot of props for just going big or home. I hope he gets at least a nod for his performance as a supporting actor. Actor. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's not exactly as incredible. I think as like a lot of the way reviews have for it. I think it's like a 90, at least a 94, probably like a 96, 98 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not that uncomfortable. Like if you're able to put up with like if you've seen Schindler's List or any other of these like very like horrendous tragedy like or any other slave movies, like you'll be sort of like it's nothing that new per se, but like again like it puts you in the mindset where like it's so like sort of like there are moments where like it's shockingly violent that like so like sort of get you like engaged. So yeah, go see 12 Years a Slave. Thank you for like sticking up with me. It's like 1 o'clock now. Thank you for watching. Hope you like my solo reviews. Please like, comment, subscribe. I hope you like it. Thank you. Take care. Good night, audience.